If you've ever driven along Interstate 95 through the Carolinas, there's a moment where the road starts talking to you. Not literally, but through billboards. Dozens of them. Pedro says stop. You never saw such a place. Just south of the border, you're always welcome. They start appearing miles away, then closer, then nonstop. And eventually, whether you meant to or not, you arrive at one of the strangest roadside attractions in America, south of the border. At first glance, it looks like a theme park. At second glance, a motel complex. At third glance, something else entirely. This is the story of how a dusty highway stop became a cultural landmark, a controversial icon, and a time capsule of roadside America. Where exactly is south of the border? South of the border sits directly on the border between North Carolina and South Carolina, right along Interstate 95, one of the busiest highways on the East Coast. Technically, it's in Dillon, South Carolina, but its entire identity is built around being just south of North Carolina, hence the name. For millions of drivers traveling between Florida and the Northeast, this stretch of I-95 is long, flat, and monotonous, and that's exactly why south of the border exists. It wasn't designed to be subtle, it was designed to be impossible to ignore. South of the border was founded in 1949 by a man named Alan Schaefer. Originally, Schaefer ran a small beer stand near the state line. At the time, North Carolina had stricter alcohol laws, while South Carolina allowed alcohol sales more freely. So Schaefer leaned into it. He advertised his stand as a place to grab drinks just across the border. And slowly, he realized something important. People on road trips don't just want gas, they want distractions. Over the years, that small stand grew into a sprawling roadside complex. Restaurants, souvenir shops, motels, and eventually a towering mascot that would define the place forever. You can't talk about south of the border without talking about Pedro. Pedro is the park's cartoon mascot, a sombrero-wearing character whose image appears everywhere, on signs, on buildings, on billboards stretching for miles. The most iconic feature is Pedro's hat, a 100-foot tall observation tower shaped like, you guessed it, a sombrero. At the time it was built, Pedro was meant to be friendly, humorous, and eye-catching. But as decades passed, Pedro became controversial. Many critics argue that the character relies on outdated and stereotypical imagery of Mexican culture. What once felt playful to mid-20th century America now raises uncomfortable questions about representation. And yet, Pedro remains, unchanged, watching over the highway. So what is south of the border? It's not quite a theme park, not quite a tourist trap, not quite abandoned. It's a roadside village frozen in time. Inside the complex you'll find multiple souvenir shops selling everything from fireworks to novelty t-shirts, a Mexican-themed restaurant, several motels with brightly painted exteriors, amusement rides, some operational, some clearly aging, empty fountains, faded murals, and sun-bleached statues. Walking through south of the border feels surreal. There's color everywhere, but also emptiness. You can tell this place was built for crowds that no longer came the way they used to. At its peak, south of the border thrived during an era when road trips were a bit slower. Billboards were king, and families stopped simply because there was something to stop for. Today, many travelers snap photos and keep driving. To understand south of the border, you have to understand roadside America. Before smartphones, before GPS, before nonstop exits filled with identical gas stations and fast food, road trips were unpredictable. Places like south of the border, Wall Drug, and the world's largest ball of twine weren't just jokes, they were destinations. They broke up long drives, they gave families stories, they turned highways into experiences. South of the border isn't just a roadside attraction, it's a surviving relic of a vanquishing travel culture. In recent decades, south of the border has faced growing criticism. Some view it as outdated, others see it as culturally insensitive, many simply see it as run down. Attendance has dropped, maintenance appears inconsistent, and the rise of faster, more efficient travel has left little room for places that rely on curiosity alone. Yet despite calls for rebranding or even removal, south of the border continues to exist almost exactly as it has, for better or for worse. South of the border survives because it represents something rare, a place that refused to modernize. In an age where everything is optimized, updated, and sanitized, south of the border is unapologetically itself. It's weird, it's uncomfortable, it's nostalgic, it's outdated, and that might be exactly why people still talk about it. While south of the border stays frozen in time, the road trip itself didn't. Over the last 2 decades, a new kind of roadside attraction has taken over America's highways, places like Buc-ee's. If south of the border is loud billboards and mystery, Buc-ee's is scale and efficiency. Buc-ee's doesn't rely on curiosity. It relies on overwhelm, massive parking lots, dozens of gas pumps, spotless bathrooms so famous that they're considered a destination of their own, entire grocery stores disguised as convenience stops. While south of the border says, you should stop here because this is weird, Buc-ee's says, you should stop here because it's the best option. It's engineered for modern travelers, fast, predictable, Instagram ready, and impossible to miss, just in a very different way. Other chains followed similar paths, offering cleaner stops, better food, and fewer risks. And slowly, spontaneous roadside attractions began losing ground. Why take the chance on something strange when you know exactly what you're getting? In that shift, places like south of the border became casualties of progress. They weren't replaced because they failed, they were replaced because travel changed. Today's road trip isn't about discovery, it's about optimization. And south of the border never optimized, it just waited. Every year, millions of cars pass by south of the border. Most don't stop, some laugh, some cringe, some feel oddly drawn in. But whether or not you pull off the highway, Pedro's message still reaches you. You never saw such a place. And maybe, just maybe, that's the point.